Mary Kay, I mean, just what has it meant to have, whether he's the guy for the next 10 years or the guy for the next 4 or 5 years, what has it meant to the Browns to have Baker Mayfield and know who their quarterback is going to be?
Well, I think that's been huge for them. I mean, the quarterback carousel continues to turn and turn and turn. Again, as you mentioned, with the big news as we tape this on Friday of the San Francisco 49ers making that big blockbuster trade up to number 3 with the Dolphins, presumably to take a quarterback. Now, they say they're hanging on to Jimmy Garoppolo, but it really seems like that's obviously what this would be all about. And it's just very, very interesting that some of these quarterbacks that we're talking about are ones that some of them are ones that I really advocated the Browns trying to acquire. Jimmy Garoppolo was one of them. I was all over that to the point where Sashi Brown even said I had the Patriots on speed dial at one point.
I forgot about that.
In a press conference, and then you have, I really was all for them drafting Carson Wentz that year, and we don't know where that's going yet. And it's just bizarre to watch that so many of these guys have gone to the Super Bowl with their teams or helped get their team to the Super Bowl, and just everything is in a state of flux just a couple of years later. It's really been wild to watch.
But Scott, the discussion for the Browns is so different, right? I mean, it was that desperation. Like you got to figure out a way to get a quarterback. So anytime somebody became available, it was like, you got to figure out a way to get that guy. And that's not the case anymore. The Browns aren't in this scramble to get up to number 3 or to get somewhere in the draft where they can take a chance on a Zach Wilson or trying to go after Sam Darnold if the Jets decide to move on from him. They, at worst, they have a guy that they feel like they can win with in this system.
Certainly made the offseason a little less exciting for us too, huh? We're not talking about potential trades for quarterbacks. We're not, the combine obviously was a different deal this year, but that always was, everybody head down to the combine and, scatter and talk about quarterbacks for the next 4 days. And it's just been a totally different world. And they're at a spot now where it's like you're trying to get someplace for so long, and then you finally get there. And I know our colleague Doug Lee has talked about this a lot. Like, this is what it's like to be a winning team and not have to worry about all those things that the Browns had to worry about for decades. And yeah, the fact that the conversation now is Baker Mayfield's extension, not who's going to be the quarterback, and everything builds off that. And so you have that puzzle piece figured out, and now it's how can you keep an offense around him for enough years to have a legitimate Super Bowl window, and how can you have an entire team built financially while figuring out how much you're going to pay Baker Mayfield. It's a different world, but it's definitely a better world for the Browns.
And Mary Kay, when you look at how the Browns have built this, do you think do you think they've done it right? It seems like 2019 is always that hiccup year. It's might just end up being that weird footnote year, but based on kind of where they are now, do you think they kind of have it figured out?
Well, they really made it a point of emphasis, obviously, to invest in Baker Mayfield last season and to surround him with all of that talent. And the idea was, I think this is the year that they really are supposed to try to get to the Super Bowl. He's heading into his 4th year. Myles Garrett is heading into his 5th year. We've talked about all the money. Now they are going to have to pay Baker Mayfield after this. So I think it's set up to try to get there this year, because when you look beyond this year, I would have to think that there's going to be a shakeup in the receiver room potentially after this year, right? I mean, those guys are going to be 29 this year, and who knows if they're going to be here after next year. Rashard Higgins, we had a press conference with him. He might not be here after this year. David Njoku might not be here after this year. JC Tretter, you start to wonder, are they going to, want to have some turnover on the offensive line? So it's built to win right now. And the other thing that comes to my mind about this is it almost seems now, when I look at what's going on in the quarterback landscape in the NFL, there just aren't that many quarterbacks where they have that longevity, where your guy is going to be there for 10 years, right? I mean, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, there was Peyton Manning, but now it almost seems like there's so much upheaval. I mean, who would have thought, really, if we would have told you 2 years ago that Carson Wentz wouldn't be with the Eagles and Jared Goff wouldn't be with his team and Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't be with the 49ers and, even Matt Stafford. I mean, it's just all kind of going crazy right now. And it will be interesting to see where the Browns go with all of this. Is Baker going to be the long haul quarterback for them? It seems so. But where do you guys think this is going?
I think it's really interesting. It started with kind of the Cardinals and what they did with the Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray thing. We're going to probably see it with the Jets here, how they took Sam Darnold and now they might go a different direction at number 2. But I think what we're seeing now, and I think the trend that is happening now, is those were rookie deals, right? Those were guys that were cheap and it wasn't expensive to move on from them. It doesn't matter. I mean, it used to be you drafted a guy number 1 overall, you were giving him $50 million guaranteed, right? Like the Tim Couch contract, or I mean, these guys were getting rich the minute they got drafted. That doesn't happen anymore. You have these rookie deals. But now what I think is interesting is we're seeing teams move on from guys they've paid.